Hi, I'm Admiral, and in this video, I'll be playing Pokémon HeartGold completely normally for the first time. I always see Johto games get dragged for relying too much on Kanto instead of on their own Pokémon, and I have to agree. This generation introduces some bangers, including Crobat, Heracross, and one of my personal all-time favorites, Shockle, and they don't show up during the game at all unless you go out of your way to use them, since most gyms only use Gen 1 Pokémon. I enjoyed this game when I played it with just one Tyranitar, so I'm excited to actually experience it as intended, and hopefully fill in that Kanto-Johto gap a little bit more. I have a pretty solid idea of the team I want for this one, so for once, I don't waste any time with a lengthy intro before jumping into it. I immediately learn that Professor Elm wants to see me, so I hop on over to the Pokemon Lab. Elm needs me to run a quick errand for him, and has me pick a starter to accompany me. You hopefully know by now that I'm going to pick the fire starter, Cyndaquil. We head west, meet Professor Oak, who's still going around distributing Pokedexes to children across the world, and head back. On the way home, we're accosted by a young hooligan and beat the crap out of his Totodile. Upon returning to the lab, I learn that said hooligan pilfered the professor's precious Pokemon and get to name him. Unfortunately, just like last time, I don't have a good joke name lined up, so I instead christen him as Stinko 2, after Stinko, the rival from my Tyranitar playthrough. Look, I can't be funny 100% of the time. With that, I'm released into the wild to start catching Pokemon and challenging gyms. Lyra demonstrates proper catching form, so I use it to obtain a Zubat. This blind little freak won't be helpful right now, but he will eventually blossom into a beautiful Crobat, one of the speediest Pokemon in the game. Unfortunately, it'll be a little while before that happens, or before he's even remotely useful, but that's okay. We don't need him to carry us or anything right now, especially since Cyndaquil can solo the first two gyms fairly easily, which is exactly what we're going to start doing after we burn down the Sprout Tower, where I decide to catch a Rattata for HMs. Afterwards, I challenge Faulkner, who leads with a Pidgey. My initial plan was to do some kind of supersonic confusion strategy with Zubat, but I decided to go with a much simpler and more reliable plan and lead with Cyndaquil. 2 Embers cook the bird, so Faulkner sends out his Pidgeotto. We trade an Ember into Tackle, and then it just starts stalling me with Roost. We get a crit that ends up burning, but it rarely attacks, just opting to keep healing. I'll spare you most of the fight, because I don't even want to know how long this actually took, but we eventually take it down, earning a victory that was more tedious than difficult. That win also causes Cyndaquil to evolve, so now we're rocking a Quilava. I actually thought it evolved at 16 like most starters, so that was a bit of a misplay on my end. I absolutely would have just grinded that last level and gone with a Quilava, which would have made that last battle much easier. Anywho, Elm calls me to ask me to grab an egg, and so I take it with me to Azalea Town, our next stop. I get there and clear Team Rocket out of Slowpoke well. Team Rocket's back doing crime for plot reasons, so it's up to me to stop them a second time. I also go ahead and snag a Slowpoke here, since it's a solid team member and a Pokemon I never use. Fun Admiral fact, back when I played Pokemon Unite with my friends, I was a Slowbro main, and a damn good one at that, so this guy's got a special place in my heart. I consider training up the team, but to be honest, I'm not sure we need it. This is a bug gym, and we have a Quilava, so yeah. Or at least, that's what I would have said if we didn't have one of our best encounters just several levels away from us. You see, if I get Slowpoke up to level 25, it can learn Headbutt and secure a Heracross for the crew, getting us one step closer to our final lineup, so that's exactly what I do. While I was doing that, Togepi hatched from the egg we got earlier, but I wasn't recording because it's a 19 level grind, so I'm sorry. Also, I'm pretty sure I maxed out Slowpoke's defense EV from grinding, but that's not important right now because it's time for the gym. First out for Bugsy is his Scyther, and I send out Quilava. I open with Ember as Scyther outspeeds Titleer. It takes the Ember moderately well, so I go for a quick attack to ensure our next one will take it out. Scyther hits a quick attack of its own, doing pretty hefty damage before hitting a Citrus Berry, so our next Ember definitely won't finish it off. I go for it anyway as Scyther sets up a Focus Energy. On the next turn, Bugsy heals and I hit another quick attack. For some reason I didn't think he'd heal there, so I made a mistake on that one. We hit another Ember after taking a quick attack, but now we need to switch since Quilava is at 10 HP. I bring in Slowpoke, who takes a quick attack on the switch. We take another quick attack before retaliating with a Water Gun to finally finish the big bug off. I switch back to Quilava for Metapod, who we outspeed to take down with 1 Ember. Last is Bugsy's Kakuna, who also goes down to a single Ember, winning the battle. With that, I need to head out for the next gym, through Ilex Forest. I intend to train Zubat here so we can finally learn a good move after tearing through the grass types, but instead I run into Stinko 2. Fortunately, Zubat ends up being the perfect lead into his Ghastly, as we nail it with a critical Astonish after it goes for Mean Look. On the next turn, Ghastly uses Spite, knocking down our PP, as we just hit it again. Another Spite Astonish trade takes Ghastly down, and Stinko 2 brings Croconaw in next. I decide that Slowpoke is my best answer, as it resists Croconaw's stab moves. The first turn sees us trade non-damaging moves. Croconaw lowers our speed with Scary Face, and I have Slowpoke nail it with a Yawn. Croconaw is committed to speed control, despite having had it from the start, so we're undamaged as it falls asleep after taking a decently hard confusion. We only get one turn of sleep, because I'm the unluckiest man alive, but Croconaw really doesn't want the Pokemon whose name starts with slow to outspeed him, so we're able to take it down to a sliver with another confusion. It finally decides to attack, hitting a soft bite before going down to a final confusion. Last for Stinko 2 is a Zubat of his own, so I switch to Quilava. I know Quilava can take care of it without issue, and the speed EV is more valuable on him than on Slowpoke, so that's why I switched instead of going for the one-shot with confusion. Anyway, 2 Embers take it out, and we win an unexpected battle without issue. Now, we can finally hit Ilex Forest for some gains. I make my way through, but there are only some bug types here for Zubat to slaughter, so the grind is a bit slow. That's okay though, as we learn Bite just as we come out on the other end, letting us easily deal with the psychic types outside of Goldenrod, our next major stop for the normal gym. After spending way too much of my life playing Voltorb Flip, I get Whitney back in the gym and start the battle. She leads with Clefairy and I send out Slowpoke. We outspeed to hit a Yawn, and Clefairy goes for a Metronome, which rolls a resistant Blaze Kick. On the next turn, I bring Heracross out and we take a Metronome Icy Wind on the switch. It lowers our speed, which sucks, but Clefairy falls asleep, so we're safe to set up with 2 Swords Dances, aka the whole reason I played Voltorb Flip for 2 hours. That lets us one-shot with Brick Break as Clefairy snoozes. Miltank is out next and outspeeds to hit a Stomp. I mentally prepare myself for Heracross to flinch, but instead we're able to attack, one-shotting with the second Brick Break to cleanly win a 3rd gym badge. As I make my way to Ecruteak for the next gym, I would like to make a formal announcement. Going forward, if I can get something at the game corner, like an item or a move, I'm just gonna cheat to give it to myself. While I can spend hours playing Voltorb Flip for it, that game is so tedious and frustrating that I'd rather save myself the time and mental energy and just take the easy way out. It was one thing when I just needed 1,000 coins in the Tyranitar playthrough, but now I have a full team of 6 to get out, so I can't afford that mental debuff anymore. Of course, I want to reiterate that this is limited to the game corner. I'm not going to give myself anything I couldn't normally get at this point, like leftovers or a Flame Orb. I'm just saving myself a huge grind. With that established, I arrive in Ecruteak and prepare to battle Stinko 2. I know he's waiting for me in the Burned Tower, where the 3 legendary beasts are chilling out, so I make sure that my team is ready to go. The first part of that plan involves catching a Magnemite just outside of town. As tempting as it is to grab Mareep since it's Johto's signature electric type, I don't like Ampharos too much since it's so slow, and having a steel type on the team is too good of a value to pass up on. The only disappointing thing about this is that Eviolite was introduced in Generation 5, so we don't get any help for not being fully evolved. After that, I level Zubat up to 20 to match his Ghastly, grab Surf from the dance hall and slap it onto Slowpoke, and then I start the battle. Stinko 2 leads with his aforementioned Ghastly, and I lead with Zubat. He outspeeds to hit a Confuse Ray, but we break through Confusion to hit a nasty Bite. We go for Bite a second time to finish it off, but Stinko 2 switches in his Magnemite as Zubat just hits itself in Confusion. I go ahead and hard switch to Quilava on a Thundershock that, of course, paralyzes. That lets Magnemite outspeed to connect with Supersonic, confusing Quilava, but we break through both Confusion and Paralysis to one-shot with Ember anyway. Croconaw comes out next, so I bring in my own Magnemite for its debut battle. Croconaw hits what is apparently its favorite move, Scary Face, to lower our speed before we take it to just below half health with a critical Thundershock. Croconaw misses a second Scary Face, and we leave it deep in the red from another Thundershock. Another Scary Face Thundershock trade takes out the little gator, so Zubat comes out next. We hit a nasty Thundershock as Zubat misses a Supersonic, and then finish it on the next turn after it misses a second attempt at Supersonic. Last up is Ghastly, but it can't survive a hit at its current HP, and so goes down to Thundershock after just going for Mean Look. And with that win, I can now get ready for the Ghost Gym. With Bite and Astonish, Zubat is a prime candidate to handle Morty and his team, especially with support from Slowpoke. The entire gym just has the Gengar line, so their secondary poison typing offers Slowpoke a fairly neutral matchup. With a level 25 Gengar in the back, I do need to take some time to get Zubat to a higher level, which means that it will eventually evolve into a Golbat at level 22, and and hopefully a Crobat right after. We'll find out in a second when I cut to the gym battle. One bit later, and here we are. Morty leads with a Ghastly, and I send out Golbat. We outspeed to one shot with a Bite, so Morty sends out his first Haunter next. A Bite leaves it deep in the red, and Haunter just misses a Hypnosis. Morty heals on the next turn, but we nail Haunter again to bring its health right back down. Another Bite finishes it, so now Gengar comes in, by far his scariest Pokemon. It outspeeds to hit a mean look before taking a Bite to just above half health. Since it trapped us in, I predict a Destiny Bond play. To avoid that, I go for Astonish, which we outspeed to hit and leave Gengar just below half health before Citrus Berry brings it right back to where it was. Instead of Destiny Bond, which I learned right after recording this fight is a move it doesn't even have, we get nailed with a Shadow Ball. On the next turn, we outspeed again to crit a Bite, taking it out and leveling up. Morty's final Haunter comes out, and this is pretty much over. We hit it with Bite to take it into the red, and it retaliates with a Nightshade. Morty heals, and we leave it with a Sliver off another Bite. One last hit, and we close out the match. That Gengar kill gets Golbat to evolve. It would have been nice if Crobat had decided to show up before the gym, but better late than never. That's especially true since the next gym is Cyanwood's Fighting-type gym against Chuck. That means that Crobat, Slowpoke, and the rest of the team need a bit of a training overhaul to match his ace Poliwrath, sitting comfortably at level 31, so that'll be my next task before we move on. While we sit here watching me level up the team, I'm going to take the opportunity to remind you to subscribe to the channel. Studies have shown that subscribing can increase your height by up to 3 inches, so there's really no reason not to do it. Plus, it's totally free and you can change your mind anytime you want if you don't mind hurting my feelings. Besides, if you've made it this far, you may as well stick around and see what else I've got cooking up. And now that I've thoroughly oversold myself, let's get back into the action. After getting everyone to about level 25, I ultimately decide that it'd be a better use of my time to travel south to Olivine and Cyanwood to battle against a slightly higher level Pokemon there. I make my way across without too much issue or fanfare, getting a ton of levels onto Magnemite thanks to all of the water specialists between Olivine and Cyanwood. I also do some work with Slowpoke, and eventually come to the realization that even though we're slightly under level, Crobat, Slowpoke, and even Magnemite shouldn't really have a problem dealing with Chuck's 2-member team. Plus, Heracross knows Aerial Ace and Quilava is just a good Pokemon, so the more I think, the less worried I become. With that, it's time for battle. Chuck leads with Primeape, and I send out Crobat. We outspeed to land a Wing Attack that leaves Primeape with about a quarter of its HP, which makes me nervous. Luckily, instead of going for a super effective Rock Slide, Primeape just sets up a double team. That's still not great, but we connect with Wing Attack on the next turn to finish him off. Next out is Poliwrath. We outspeed again to hit a Wing Attack for about a third of its health, and its Retaliatory Surf does the same. Another Wing Attack leaves it in yellow health, and I realize that this is a losing battle. Its held Citrus Berry takes it to half health, so there's no way to take it out without Chuck healing, which means Crobat is in danger. I gamble and hit a Confuse Ray, hoping to get it into a range where we can kill without Chuck healing, but Poliwrath doesn't hit itself. Instead, it just goes for Hypnosis, so Crobat lives to fight another day. I hard switch in Slowpoke on a Surf, and then hit it with a Yawn. On the next turn, we hit a Confusion as Poliwrath takes a little nap. Thanks to that, I can now safely bring in Magnemite to finish it off with a super effective Thunderbolt, winning the badge. After that, I grab our final team member. After using Rock Smash and Cyanwood, I acquire for us one of the greatest Pokemon ever conceived. Shuckle. This funky little fella won't really help in terms of damage, but its sheer bulk means that taking hits won't be nearly as scary. I then return to Olivine, where the sick Ampharos awaits his medicine. That gets Jasmine back into the gym. You may think I'm a little stupid for challenging the next gym without doing any training, but she's a Steel-type specialist, and we have Quilava. And Heracross. And super effective Surf from Slowpoke in case her Steelix gives us any trouble, so this should be incredibly easy. And it is. Jasmine leads with her first Magnemite, and I send out Quilava. One Flamethrower takes it out, so Jasmine brings in her Steelix. It threatens with Rock Throw, but instead sets up a Sandstorm after we bring it low with Flamethrower. Its Citrus Berry makes me a bit worried since Flamethrower could be in a damage range now, but a critical hit means that it goes down regardless, so Jasmine's down to her final Pokemon, another Magnemite. A final Flamethrower takes it out, and we've won. Now I have to head to the eastern half of the map for the last 2 gyms. That neat little process starts at the Lake of Rage, where a shiny Gyarados is just hanging out. I catch him, but I don't intend to use him, since there's not really a role I need him to fill for me. That lets me join Lance on an investigation to the souvenir shop in Mahogany Town, and from here you should know the drill. Lance murders a guy in cold blood, I take out the resulting trauma on Team Rocket, and then it's just a bunch of boring story stuff before I can actually do the gym, so I'll just go ahead and skip to that. We're technically under level, but we also have a steel type, a fighting type, and a fire type for the ice gym, so I'm not really worried. Price leads with a seal, and I lead with our new Magneton, courtesy of the gym's trainers. One Thunderbolt knocks out the non-ice type, so Price brings in his Piloswine, and this is where RNG just absolutely ruins me. I bring in Quilava and nail it with a flamethrower that takes it down to about a quarter of its health before Citrus Berry heals it back up. Price just sets up a tail, so I'm feeling great knowing we outspeed. However, Piloswine's Snow Cloak ability makes our next flamethrower miss, so we take a devastating Mud Bomb. I have to hard switch in Heracross, who takes an Ice Fang on the switch and immediately gets frozen, because God hates me. So now I have to switch again, opting to bring in Magneton. In hindsight, I should have brought in Crobat to bait an Ice Fang and then switched in Magneton, but I didn't because I'm a fool. Luckily, we just tank a Blizzard for not terrible damage on the switch, so it's fine. We hit an always accurate Magnet Bomb on the next turn before dodging a Mud Bomb, but it does so little damage that Piloswine is sitting comfortably in healing range as Hail runs out. Price hits it with a Hyper Potion as we just go for another Magnet Bomb, and I'm really starting to feel the pressure. Mud Bomb is definitely going to take out Magneton, and I need him for the Dugong in the back, so I need to find a play and find it fast. But if there's anyone that you want on your side in a crisis, it's me. The comeback starts with me bringing in Slowpoke, tanking a Mud Bomb on the switch. We're at risk to a crit, but I predict a Hail setup, and I'm right. That lets us hit a Yawn, so now we just need to buy time for Piloswine to fall asleep. We take another Mud Bomb down to just 9 HP, and then miss a Surf, but I'd honestly rather miss that than Yawn. Hail Chip doesn't finish us off as Piloswine falls asleep, so we're able to connect with Surf for really solid damage. Unfortunately, Hail now takes Slowpoke down, but that lets me safely bring in Quilava and hit a Flamethrower to finally finish off Piloswine. Dugong is out last, so I bring in Magneton. We outspeed to nail it with Thunderbolt, and it lives with 1 HP. I can't stand it here, man. A weak Aurora Beam in retaliation solidifies our victory as Price heals on the next turn. That lets us hit another Thunderbolt for free, paralyzing Dugong. We didn't need the paralysis since we already had the speed advantage, but either way, a final Thunderbolt closes out the match, and I finally have an excuse to break out this screenshot one of my friends always sends me. After once again proving that luck is nothing when faced with my raw power, I have to do more story stuff, this time back in Goldenrod. I make sure to spin on the game quarter on my way through the city before arriving in the radio tower. A lot of not very interesting stuff happens here, but we do manage to evolve Quilava into Typhlosion and bully Stinko 2 some more, which is always fun. That makes our next stop the final gym, a battle against Claire. Not only is she an even sorer loser than Whitney, she also has dragon types before Gen 6, so I'm not quite sure how I want to tackle her gym. I'll figure it out once I have everyone on the team leveled up to 41 to match her ace, Kingdra, and I'll be doing that through totally legitimate means. I definitely won't be cheating in rare candies so I have more free time to play Zelda. Definitely not. Anywho, battle time. Claire leads with Gyarados, and I send out Magneton. Our Thunderbolt one-shots after we take a Dragon Rage, so I bring out Slowbro as our first Dragonair comes out. It paralyzes Slowbro with a Thunder Wave, and we're, of course, fully paralyzed off the rip. On the next turn, we tank a Dragon Pulse before responding with a nasty Ice Beam. That makes Claire heal, so we take Dragonair right back down with another Ice Beam. A third Ice Beam finishes off after another Dragon Pulse, so Claire's other Dragonair is out next. We tank a Dragon Pulse before healing right back up with Slack Off. Another Dragon Pulse takes us just below half, before we nail Dragonair with an Ice Beam that freezes it. I take the opportunity to go for Slack Off again, but instead, we end up fully paralyzed. On the next turn, I manage to heal up, but Dragonair's Shed Skin kicks in, so I won't be able to take it out without taking another hit. A final Dragon Pulse Ice Beam exchange sees us facing off against her Kingdra. With a balanced stat spread, a stat total nearing that of a pseudo-legendary, and a single weakness to Dragon types, this thing is going to be gnarly to deal with, especially since I don't actually have a strategy for it. I start by having Slowbro hit it with a soft Ice Beam. Kingdra does pretty horrifying damage with Dragon Pulse, so that's the only hit Slowbro manages to get in. I bring out Magneton next, and we slap Kingdra with Thunder Wave after it just misses a Hydro Pump, so almost our whole team should now outspeed. After that, I hit it with Screech, lowering its defense by 2 stages. Unfortunately, Kingdra manages to break through paralysis to one-shot Magneton with a Hydro Pump, so we don't get to mess with its stats any more than that. I bring Crobat in next and smack it with a Cross Poison, sending it deep into the yellow. Kingdra ends up fully paralyzed as a Citrus Berry takes it to about half health, so I go for Fly next to ensure our next hit will take it down. Kingdra isn't able to do a thing before we connect, quite literally winging it to get the win. That should secure us the badge, but as I already kind of alluded to, Claire has the emotional maturity of a toddler and won't admit her loss, so now I have to enter the dragon's den to force her to give me the badge. While I slaughter the dragons within, it's time for another fun Admiral fact. Dragon is my favorite Pokemon type, but they're so rare and usually so exclusive to the endgame that I almost never get to use them, which always bums me out. Emotional damage aside, I managed to carve my path through the den and finally get my badge. After that, it's a final trek through Victory Road in the Pokemon League before we're finished. However, the end of Victory Road features a final battle against Stinko 2, but his team is actually a lower level than Claire's, so it should be easy. But before any of that happens, I have to do the Ho-Oh stuff, which I honestly forgot about until now. I make my way through the bell tower, and realize that I actually have a bit of a gripe with Pokemon games. Why does every location that isn't a town or gym have to be a puzzle? For example, the bell tower. It's supposed to be this place where Ho-Oh can just chill out and people can come visit it, so why on earth does it have a warp panel puzzle? It's really annoying. Anyway, the rest of it's uneventful, so now I go to Victory Road, which is also uneventful. So now it's time for the final rival fight. He leads with his Sneasel, and I lead with Heracross. We outspeed to hit 4 times effective close combat, one-shotting. Next out for Stinko 2 is Golbat, so I bring in Magneton. Golbat outspeeds to Confuse Ray, and Magneton hits itself in Confusion. On the next turn, Golbat hits a Bite, and we flinch. Of course. On the third day, however, we rise, avoiding a flinch and snapping out of Confusion to one-shot with Thunderbolt. Third up is for Alligator, so I keep Magneton in. We outspeed and one-shot with Thunderbolt, and Stinko 2 sends out his Haunter as our next opponent. I swap in Crobat and outspeed to one-shot with Bite. Fifth is Kadabra, so I keep Crobat in after almost switching. I'm clearly not paying much attention here because I also go for Cross Poison instead of Bite for some reason, but it one-shots, so who cares? Last is Magneton, so I bring in Typhlosion to outspeed and one-shot with Flamethrower. Easy stuff. Now, all that's left are the Elite Four and Champion, and then we're done. I get everyone to level 50 to match Lance's final Dragonite, and we're pretty set. Here are our stats and move list for the endgame. Our moves aren't amazing, since the Johto half of the game is pretty lacking in good TMs, but our stats and type coverage are about as good as anyone could ask for with, again, a limited selection of TMs. With that, we're good to start. First up is Will, a Psychic-type specialist. He leads with a Xatu, and I send out Magneton. We outspeed to one-shot with Thunderbolt, so it's over to Typhlosion to deal with his Jinx. Typhlosion also outspeeds here, so it's another one-shot, this time with Flamethrower. Third out is Slowbro, so I switch back to Magneton to, you guessed it, outspeed and one-shot with Thunderbolt. Fourth is Exeggutor, so I bring in Shuckle for its first appearance. Exeggutor sets up a Reflect, but Shuckle doesn't care, nailing it with a critical Bug Bite in response. Exeggutor hits a Hypnosis on the next turn, so poor Shuckle doesn't get to finish off its prey. We continue to snooze through a pretty hefty crit on Psychic, so I do what I arguably should have done to begin with and bring in Typhlosion. We outspeed to finish it off with Flamethrower, and bring Magneton out one last time for Will's second Xatu. This time we don't outspeed, getting hit with a Confuse Ray, but Magneton breaks through Confusion to one-shot with a critical Thunderbolt, winning our first Elite Four battle. Next are Koga and his Poison-type Pokemon. I lead Typhlosion into his Ariados and outspeed to one-shot with Flamethrower. We stay in for his next Pokemon, a Forretress. It protects on the first turn, but only delays the inevitable as a quad-effective Flamethrower one-shots on the next turn. Muck is out next, so I just stay in with Typhlosion. A Flamethrower takes it to about half as it just sets up with Minimize before healing a little with its Health Black Sludge. On the next turn, I go for Swift since it can't miss, as Muck just uses another Minimize. I use Flamethrower to hopefully finish it, which works as the move connects. I finally switch Typhlosion out, opting for Magneton as Koga sends out his Crobat. It outspeeds and uses Double Team, which leaves Koga 0 for 2 on trying to cheese the battle with evasion moves, as our Thunderbolt connects to one-shot. Last is Venomoth, so I bring Typhlosion out one last time to one-shot with Lava Plume, conserving our Flamethrower PP and winning a damageless battle. Third is Bruno, whose fighting types should be easy pickings. I lead with Crobat into his Hitmontop, outspeeding to go for Fly. We connect on the next turn, but somehow manage to leave Hitmontop deep in the red. That's really bad, as Hitmontop retaliates with a counter to one-shot. Luckily, except for when I don't, I always have a backup plan. I bring in Heracross and set up a Swords Dance as Bruno heals, and so long as we don't see a rare AI switch, we're totally safe to do this 2 more times. We do as Hitmontop just uses Quick Attack, desperately trying to stave off the inevitable. And then we Aerial Ace it to one-shot. Hitmonlee is next, probably looking for a super effective Blaze Kick, but we outspeed and use Aerial Ace. Hitmonchan is third, but once again, Aerial Ace proves to be faster. Fourth is Onix, who gets nailed by a close combat. Last is Machamp, which is where I finally remember that fighting doesn't resist itself, so stab close combat is always better than Aerial Ace. That means that we're guaranteed a one-shot against this thing, outspeeding to sweep the win. Last is Karen, a kind of Dark-type user. You'll see what I mean. After beating her on my first attempt, I realized I never started recording, so I have to reset and make sure to actually record this one. First up is her Umbreon, who faces off against Heracross. One close combat gets us the knockout, so I switch over to Magneton for her Murkrow. Even a critical feint attack barely damages Magneton, so even though we don't outspeed, Murkrow goes down in one hit from Thunderbolt. Karen brings out Houndoom third, so it's Slowbro's time to shine. It hits Slowbro hard with a Dark Pulse, but we hit even harder with Surf, sending it down to whatever's just above a sliver. I switch in Crobat on another Dark Pulse, and then outspeed to finish it off with Cross Poison. Karen sends out her Gengar next, so I keep Crobat in to hit a bite, bringing Gengar to what looks like exactly half health. Gengar only uses Spite in response, so another bite takes it down. Last is Vileplume. This and Gengar are why I call Karen a kind of Dark-type user. Anyway, I switch to Typhlosion, outspeed with Flamethrower, one-shot, win, etc. So now it's just the champion left. Lance leads with Gyarados, and I send out Magneton. We outspeed to one-shot with Thunderbolt, and so Lance brings out Charizard next as Magneton stays in. I know he's looking for a Fire Fang, but we're so physically defensive that it shouldn't matter. And it doesn't, because he misses. We take Charizard low with a Thunderbolt, and Lance heals. Our next Thunderbolt high rolls, one-shotting. Lance brings in his level 50 Dragonite next, so I send out Slowbro. Unlike our battle with Claire, I actually remembered to give Slowbro the Never Melts Ice this time, so our Ice Beam should hit pretty hard. However, Dragonite outspeeds and hits a critical Outrage, leaving Slowbro with just 9 HP. Even worse, our Ice Beam somehow leaves him with just a sliver, so we're in a terrible position after a Citrus Berry heals Dragonite. As I expect, Dragonite outspeeds to finish off Slowbro, so I bring in Crobat, our only teammate that I know is faster. We nail him with a Cross Poison that somehow doesn't one-shot, but it does manage to poison before Dragonite uses Safeguard just a turn too late. The poison damage takes it out, so I bring Magneton back out for Lance's Aerodactyl. We don't flinch from Rock Slide, so one Thunderbolt is enough to take it down. That brings out a second Dragonite, who outspeeds and hits Magneton with Thunder Wave. I forgot about Safeguard, so I feel a bit foolish as our Thunder Wave fails. Dragonite hits a pretty solid Dragon Rush on the next turn, and we hit a comparably solid Thunderbolt in return. A critical Dragon Rush takes Magneton down, so I send Crobat back out. We outspeed to hit a Confuse Ray, and it immediately pays off as Dragonite hits itself. We go for Fly on the next turn, causing Dragonite to miss its attempt at Hyper Beam. Our Fly leaves Dragonite in the red, and it snaps out of confusion to hit a devastating Hyper Beam. We're able to outspeed and finish it with Cross Poison, but Lance has yet another Dragonite, and it's not looking good for us. I stay in with Crobat, hoping that speed and damage can prevail. We crit a Cross Poison for about half of Dragonite's health, and Dragonite misses a Dragon Rush. I hit another Cross Poison as Dragonite misses Blizzard, but then we barely miss out on the knockout with a third Cross Poison. Even worse, Dragonite connects with Dragon Rush, so Crobat's down as Dragonite sits comfortably in healing range. Which means I have to get really cheap. I bring in Typhlosion, hit Swift as he heals, and then start plugging away with Smokescreen. It's not a perfect strategy, as Dragonite connects with enough moves to take Typhlosion out after only 5 accuracy drops, but it's enough to ensure relatively safe switches. I bring in Shuckle to replace Typhlosion, and watch Dragonite miss a Dragon Rush in exchange for bringing Slowbro back with a max revive. Apparently death is just a status condition. We tank a Dragon Rush as Shuckle uses Gastro Acid, and then I hard switch in Slowbro. Thankfully, Dragonite misses its attack on the switch and on the next turn, letting Slowbro take it down with Ice Beam, winning the battle. And now, as the credits roll, it's time for us to part ways yet again. Just like last time, I really enjoyed this game, and it's just as good with 6 team members. Plus, I finally got to use Shuckle in a playthrough. If you liked this video, be sure to... Nah, I'm just playing with you. I still have the entire Kanto region to terrorize before we're truly finished, so let me do that really quickly so you can watch me beat up Red. Kanto was a non-issue for me back when I did this with one Pokemon, so I'm honestly not even going to bother recording any of it except for Blue, since he's objectively the only challenging one. Blue leads with Executor, and I lead with Typhlosion. We outspeed to one-shot with a Flamethrower, torching the tropical tree. I swap to Slowbro as Rhydon comes in, again outspeeding to one-shot with a quad-effective Surf. I keep Slowbro out from Machamp, tanking a Stone Edge surprisingly well before sending him deep into the red with a Psychic. Blue heals, so our next Psychic doesn't finish him off. That means we tank a second Stone Edge before finishing it on the next turn. Arcanine is out fourth, so Slowbro gets to continue dominating Blue's team. A Surf takes him deep into the red, but we moved first, so I assume he's used a move with lowered priority. I'm right, as Aurora brings Heracross into the mix. That's a tough break for Blue, as Intimidate doesn't trigger against my best physical attacker. We also get to use Swords Dance for free as Blue heals, one-shotting on the next turn with Close Combat. Pidgeot is out next, and I don't know for sure if we outspeed, so I switch to Magneton. We absolutely would have outsped with Heracross, since Magneton is able to outspeed to hit a Thunderbolt, one-shotting. Blue's last Pokemon is a Gyarados, so Magneton stays in, outspeeds, and one-shots one final time to end the battle. With that, we're free to head to Mount Silver and face off against Red. I've leveled everyone up to match his Pikachu, so we're ready to start. Speaking of Pikachu, that's his lead into my Heracross, who immediately outspeeds and nails it with Earthquake to one-shot. Red brings in Charizard next, so I swing over to Slowbro. Charizard outspeeds to hit a hard Air Slash that, of course, gets a flinch. On the next turn, we manage to connect with the Surf that barely misses out on a one-shot, but before I can get mad, I remember the Hail that finishes Charizard off for me, so I find Inner Peace and Typhlosion for his Venusaur. We outspeed and bring it low with Flamethrower, and I immediately realize that I should have gone for Eruption instead. Venusaur retaliates with a hard Sludge Bomb, and then I just hit another Flamethrower as Red heals. We finish it on the next turn, and then bring in Magneton for his Blastoise. Blastoise outspeeds to hit a devastating Focus Blast, but we survive on just 13 HP to one-shot with Thunderbolt. Hail finishes poor Magneton off, so I bring in Heracross. Red's only two remaining Pokemon are Lapras and Snorlax, both of whom are dealt with handily by Heracross's Close Combat. It's Lapras out first, and just to be safe, I set up a Swords Dance before taking a nasty Blizzard. However, we dodge a Freeze and we outspeed, so this is pretty much finished. One Close Combat takes out Lapras, albeit slowly thanks to Gen 4 health bars, and then Snorlax comes out. One more painfully slow Close Combat later, and we're finished. And with that, I can let the credits roll, but for real this time. Like I started to say before, I really enjoyed this one. HeartGold is fun, but I always find myself thrown off by the disparity between Wild Pokemon levels and Gym Leader levels. It makes grinding much more tedious than in any other Pokemon game that I've played. I also forgot how long it is to play if you do Kanto too. I procrastinated on this one way more than I should have because I thought it would be quick. Both regions together made this as long to play as Black was. One day I might come back to this and mess around in the post-game a little, but that's something I do on my own since I don't really see it being an interesting video. Unless I start streaming again, in which case you might see it. Reflections on the future of my content aside, we're just about done here. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like it, subscribe, and especially leave a comment. Your feedback helps me know what to keep doing and what I can improve on, so it's probably the most important thing you can do. My next video will be a Monotype Nuzlocke, since exactly one person exercised the power of their comment and asked for it, and after that I'll be revisiting Platinum, just like I did with HeartGold and Black, so look forward to that. That's all I have for you today, so I'll catch you in the next one.